Hello, Chicago. Coming to you from Studio C at AM 560, The Answer. This is the IRS Radio Hour.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
This show is sponsored by the law office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Opem Tax Resolutions.
God bless you, Opem Tax Resolution.
Opem helps people achieve full financial recovery dealing with IRS problems. We help people with audits and levies, liens and garnishments, collections, unfiled tax returns, and payroll tax issues. We also help people with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. Ooh. So if you, what have I been saying lately? If you need your taxes done too, they do taxes. They prepare taxes. Is that what you've been saying? I've been saying it the last couple of weeks.
I thought you've been saying something you can't really put on the air.
I have, but we haven't put it on the air.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And
especially when you're driving.
So if you need your taxes done, then you need to call, or you have IRS problems, or we could do both. And matter of fact, what I've been saying is, if you come to us and you mention this show, I will give you 20% off. And I've had a couple calls, so that's good. I give you 20% off your tax returns for 2015. So call us at 312-664-6649.
You might even say, full financial recovery. 20% off.
Wow.
We don't know who that is because I haven't introduced her yet. That is our technical producer, Debbie Schreiner.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Jim.
Hi, Debbie. How are you?
And this is Jimmy.
Hi, I'm Jimmy.
Introduce yourself, Jim.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's usually a tagline that goes with this, but not today. We're doing something different. We are changing the scene. I am Jim Leahy. I am the co-host, and we will not only talk about IRS-related issues, but we talk about politics. We talk about Bernie Sanders. We talk about how he is extremely outdated. Awesome. Extremely outdated.
But before we do our regular segment here, I wanted to talk about Lent. It started, obviously, Wednesday, Ash Wednesday. It was an important day. And I wanted to mention Pączkis. I just like to say that. It's this Tuesday. It's a tradition that I have them every Fat Tuesday, and because I'm fat, and it was Tuesday. And so I ate the Pączkis. And we used to go get them at Dominic's.
Can you explain what Pączkis are? Because I'm confused.
It's just a donut stuffed with deliciousness.
A fancy donut.
Yeah. And we always
I don't like the stuffed donuts. I like chocolate.
Oh, they were chocolate. Oh, they were good chocolate. We always got them at Dominic's. And so now we have, by my house, we have a Heinen's.
Okay, look, they're not here. Why don't you give me a paper cut and pour lemon juice in it, okay, guy?
So I got them downtown this year, and they were very, very good. So I just wanted to mention that. I can't think I'm not looking at that. Do Right Donuts at 50 West Randolph. I'm giving them a plug. They'd not be even paying me. That's great. But I just
That's
wanted to mention
how good they are.
And then today, it's Friday. Listeners probably know I don't eat meat on Fridays. And last 2 weeks, we've gone to Johnny's Beef, great beefs, but they have a pepper and egg sandwich.
Amazing.
You don't think a sandwich without meat could be this good, but it is.
You got to throw the French fries on it too when you eat it. That's
But anyway, let's do
our spiel.
The news roundup, review and comment on the news.
And this week we are talking about a few things. First off, the Democratic National.
The convention. Not the convention. The debate last night.
The national debate.
Oh, yeah. It was
national.
I have to admit, I didn't watch I worked late, and I didn't watch the whole debate.
I didn't either.
And I usually do, even the Democrat debate.
I usually don't.
I usually do. And I don't even
know why I'm here.
But I've seen I've heard some great clips from it. And this is my favorite clip from the debate last night.
In her book and in this last debate, she talked about getting the approval or the support or the mentoring of Henry Kissinger. Now, I find it rather amazing because I happen to believe that Henry Kissinger was one of the most destructive secretaries of state in the modern history of this country. I am proud to say that Henry Kissinger is not my friend. I will not take advice from Henry Kissinger. And in fact, Kissinger's actions in Cambodia, when the United States bombed that country, overthrew Prince Sihanouk, created the instability for Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge to come in, who then butchered some 3 million innocent people, one of the worst genocides in the history of the world.
It's Henry Kissinger's fault.
Yeah. Well, we won't talk about that right away because what I want to first talk about is that's Grandma and Grandpa talking about, remember back in the days with Richard Nixon, who used to be in charge, and Bernie's supposed to attract all these young voters. It's like, they don't even know who Henry Kissinger is.
Henry Kissinger.
No, but it's funny because you can see what he's doing. I'm going to connect to the college students by mentioning a little bit of history here. Because I'm Bernie Sanders.
Henry Kissinger. It's not my friend.
It's not my friend.
I won't take advice from Henry Kissinger.
It's ridiculous. It's like, hey, Bernie, it's Henry Kissinger's fault, right? No, it's not the fact that we just pulled our troops out of Vietnam. Oh, no, we were bombing Cambodia because, they weren't doing anything. Let's just bomb them.
Had nothing to do with Vietnam marching through Cambodia.
Yeah, and then supplying them, and it also didn't happen to do where Pol Pot joined the revolution in North Korea in the early '60s. That brought all the troops and support over from Cambodia.
And then they stood over and watched the genocide.
But it's Henry Kissinger's fault.
And the Democrats stood and watched over the genocide as it happened and wouldn't raise a finger to help them.
It's his
just
belief.
like they're doing now in Iraq. Exactly the same thing. You go in there, you pull out the troops too early for no reason, and Pol Pot filled the vacuum there. We have ISIS filling the vacuum here. It's the same thing.
And it's funny, too, because the Democrats are some of the most destructive people I've ever seen. Like, take a look at history. It's the same thing, Vietnam and Iraq.
I agree.
It just is going to play it out. We're not there to win. We're just there to make a statement.
And I don't know if you've seen this, but recently there was someone talking about the rules of engagement is, they can't fire in Afghanistan. They can't fire on anybody unless they're fired upon. So they can walk right up to you and you can't fire on them. They're your enemy, but you can't fire on them unless they fire at you. But by the time they fire at you, you can't fire at them. So anyway.
It's funny that you guys played that clip from Bernie because I wrote an unofficial campaign song for him.
Okay.
Did you really?
I did. Do you want to hear it?
I do want to hear it.
Let's go.
Okay.
You want me to beatbox, be underneath?
If the spirit moves you. Oh, my candidate has a first name. It's BRNIE. My candidate has a second name. It's Sandy ERS.
Wow.
Oh, I hope he's president one day. And if you ask me why, I'll say Bernie Sanders knows the way to socialism, USA.
You know what's great, too? Because Bernie Sanders believes...
I love it.
It was a little misspelled. And God bless you. It was a little misspelled, but Bernie Sanders believes that's how he spells his name.
Parts of it are words. The B is BE, and the SAN is SAN.
So she didn't misspell it, Jim.
No. I was making a point to moving on.
What I want to say
I
is
like it, though.
Any hot dog reference in this show is greatly appreciated, right? I'm a hot dog guy. Everybody knows that.
Let's elaborate on that, because he had a hot dog stand.
I have a hot dog stand.
He has a hot dog stand.
I am the hot dog guy.
There's a lot of people tuning into the show for
that title came along with the hot dog stand. When you buy a hot dog stand, you are forever known as the hot dog guy. Everybody knows that.
I bought a falafel stand. Am I the falafel guy?
I don't know. I don't know any. What's that?
I bought a falafel stand.
Yes, you are now the falafel guy. Yes, that's the way it works.
Come on, you don't know falafel?
That's the way it works. So anyway, I have to say, well, no, we didn't even get to the New Hampshire vote, which was just great. It was just great. That Donald Trump, he took care of the business. My guy, though,
TCOB.
So anyway, Donald Trump is going to save the world. And if you need your world saved, then you need, because the IRS is coming after you. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens.
Yeah, you have to know that. People will call me like, hey, I need the world saved. Be like, whoa, I'm just an attorney.
I will save the world if the IRS is coming after you. I will help you. And Opem Tax Resolutions there for you. And you need to call them at 312-664-6649 or visit them on the web at ChicagoTaxTeam.com.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we just started this show off. Stay tuned, because after the commercial break, we're going to get into a lot of great subjects. So make sure you stay tuned here on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560.
The Answer.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host. I am attorney Stephen Leahy. And this is the IRS Radio Hour, heard right here on 560 The Answer. Did I miss AM 560? The Answer.
Wow. Caught me off guard there.
I'm reading that right there.
The survey will accept both of those.
Okay. What are we doing now, Jim?
I'm sorry, I'm reading the 10 Commandments of hosting a great radio show because we have them right here in Studio C. This is the blog segment.
It is the blog segment. And on this blog, you know what, when I kind of see clients it seems in clusters, like all of a sudden 3 people will come in and they'll have similar problems. I haven't heard that in a year, you know? And so in the last couple of weeks, I've seen a lot of people coming to see me and their remedy. Now, before I get into that, let's talk about the 6 things. I'll just remind you that we always talk on this show about 6 things you could do if you owe the IRS money.
What are they?
I know you don't remember them.
Oh, yeah, because this is a segment where I tune out. What is it?
I know what
I'm not going to...
The 60s.
Yeah, the 60s, man.
You and Bernie. Bernie was retiring in the 60s. And then becoming a congressman.
But I wasn't friends with Henry Kissinger.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. Okay, so there's six things you can do if you owe the IRS money.
What's the first one?
The first thing you could do is you can pay them. If you write them a check, they say you owe $50,000, write them a check for $50,000. They'll leave you alone. Go figure, right? But most people can't do that. Most people don't have the money just to write a check. So the second thing you can do is you can do an installment agreement. And there's different types of installment agreement. And this segment is not about the installment agreements. So I'm not going to tell you about them. The third thing you can do is you can do an offer and compromise. And that is one of those things that you hear on the radio all the time. Generally, they say, pay the IRS pennies on a dollar. But this segment's not about that, so I'm not going to tell you about that one either.
Okay, so?
The next one, the number 4, is a currently not collectible status.
Is that what we're talking about?
That's not what we're going to talk about, but that's when you convince the IRS to leave you alone because you don't have any money.
What's the next one?
And then the 5th thing you can do is you can file for protection under the bankruptcy laws.
Are we talking about that?
That's the one we're going to talk about.
Okay, but what's 6?
6 is continue to do nothing and let the IRS have their way with you. Okay, that's not a good choice. That's never a good choice.
7 is hire Stephen Leahy.
No, well, well, okay. I never did that.
Look, I didn't write it. All right,
I said 6 things, so 7 things you can do. Okay. So we're going to talk about the 5th thing because again, that seems to be the one that's popping up all the time in my office recently. And so I'm going to give you a kind of a summary of bankruptcy.
Oh,
Yippee,
yo, woo.
Okay, so there are 2 types of protection offered by the federal government under this term bankruptcy. Well, first, before I get into that, I'm going to tell you that a lot of these outfits who do tax resolutions, and as I was mentioning, in the last couple of weeks, the best remedy for my clients recently has been bankruptcy. And many of these outfits, they don't even offer that remedy.
I thought the best remedy would be a stiff drink and a good lawyer.
Well, that's what you do before you call a lawyer, have a stiff drink. And then sometimes after because you find out what it might cost you.
Whoa.
Ba-dum boom. Hey, the rim shot. Okay, so so again, a lot of these outfits can't even give you that remedy because they're not attorneys, and a lot of attorneys who do this kind of work, they also don't know anything about bankruptcies, and so they won't offer you that remedy. So to them, they don't have 6 different things you can do. They only have 5 things you can do. Okay, so, and again, sometimes the thing is, the best thing to do is bankruptcy. So there are 2 types of protection offered by the federal government under this term bankruptcy. And if you think of the bankruptcy code as a book, and like every other book, it's divided into chapters. And that's why we hear so much about Chapter 7, Chapter 11, Chapter 13.
Look, you're throwing a lot of numbers at me. 6 things I can do, 2 things the government could do, 17 chapters within the... Is it 17?
No, I didn't say 17 chapters.
Well, what can I do to get a full-on, hands-on report from...
Okay,
what can I do? How can I get help?
Well,
I don't know what's...
I understand. So I'm going to tell you what the two types of protection under the bankruptcy laws that consumers can get, generally. The first one falls under Chapter 7. And the title of Chapter 7 is liquidation. So this is the bankruptcy that most people hear of or think of when they think of bankruptcy. What happens technically is that all your assets above a certain level of exemptions allowed by law are taken and sold from you. Now, most people don't have anything over the exemptions because the exemptions are fairly generous and let you keep everything. But everything, so most people don't lose anything, but most of their debts are discharged. And what discharge is the order of the court that lets you walk away from your debts. Now, not all taxes are dischargeable in bankruptcy. I think we talked about a little bit about this.
But not
before.
all bankruptcy is dischargeable in court.
That's right. That's absolutely correct.
I'm getting that. See.
Okay, so there's some particulars before a tax can be discharged. First, it's got to be more than 3 years old. It's got to be due more than 3 years ago.
Trace. That's
okay. So here we are coming up to April 15th. And April 15th, 2013, my 2015 taxes will come due. Well, 3 years before that would have been April 2013. And at that time, my 2012 taxes would have come due. So if I owe taxes for 2012 and I filed my bankruptcy today, they would not be dischargeable. If I waited until after April 15th, well, then they may be dischargeable.
So you're giving a little...
So I'm telling you that because people don't always do this. And a lot of people come to me and I find out that they filed their bankruptcy in February or March, and had they just waited till April or May, they could have walked away from their debt. But they didn't because the attorney they hired didn't know and didn't look. And so they got caught with the IRS debt.
But you did.
Well, we always do a due diligence investigation because we understand taxes. And so we go back and we will look to make sure that if we file today, they will be dischargeable. Or should we wait? Because I mentioned that they have to be due more than 3 years ago. They have to be filed more than 2 years ago. And the tax must have been assessed more than 240 days ago. And you can't have fraud and all that other stuff. And as long as all those things...
Fraud protection.
No, fraud protection.
We're on the same page. We're on the same page.
Well, absolutely. Does he say absolutely?
Yes, he does.
Okay, so if all those things are right, then you get to walk away from your debt. If they're not, then you don't. Okay. The second type of protection falls under Chapter 13. And what the title of Chapter 13 is Adjustment of Debt for Individuals with Regular Income.
I thought it was How to Paint with Your Eyes Closed.
That's the how-to book, but not the bankruptcy code. The bankruptcy code, Chapter 13, is adjustment of debt for individuals with regular income. Kind of just rolls.
That's a long
just kind of rolls off the tongue.
We were going to think about something
different.
What
is this? This is the repayment plan that you hear about a lot of times. And generally, Chapter 13 are used by people who are trying to save an asset, like their car, like their house. So if I fall behind in my mortgage payments, say I'm out of work and I miss a couple of mortgage payments.
They give you cash, which is just as good as money.
Okay, Yogi.
Poor Yogi.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, so if I'm a couple months behind in my mortgage and then I go back to work, well, now I have the money and I can repay my mortgage. I can make my mortgage payments again. But the mortgage company won't let me unless I paid everything I owed them. And I can't pay everything I owe them because I don't have enough money. But I can pay my mortgage again. Well, if that's the case, then Chapter 13 could be a good remedy. It's also a good remedy for people when they're not dischargeable or sometimes when the IRS is being unreasonable. So I've had clients, for instance, who have a levy against them, and we try to get the levy release. And now, most of the time, we can get the levy release fairly quickly. But sometimes you run into a revenue officer who just will not do it. Even if you're right, even if I've proven it, even if the code says they should, they just won't. And my clients, if they don't release the levy, will lose because they won't get paid. And if they don't get paid, they won't be able to pay their mortgage or their rent. And if they don't pay their rent, they'll be evicted. So Chapter 13 will automatically put a stay on all collection activity, even against the IRS. So these are the two types of protection that we can look for. And if you need one of these 6 things, and you don't know which 6 things, and you don't know which one of those 6 things.
Saying. So you do the 6 things
until you do an investigation. And to do that investigation, to figure out what's the best way to solve your IRS problem, that's when you call Opem Tax Resolutions. And then we do the investigation, and we figure out the best way to solve your IRS problem. So if you have an IRS problem, call them at 312-6 664-6649, or you can visit them on the web at chicagotaxteam.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, speaking about figuring out, we hope you figured out that this is just a commercial break, so stay tuned because more IRS radio coming at you on AM 560.
The answer.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated. Learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
We are back, and I am your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. And this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer. What's going on now, Jim?
Oh, we already know what's going on. Let's hit it. And this week's segment of As the IRS Turns, Koskinen.
Wherever we can, we follow the law.
Barry Sotero.
Not even mass corruption, not even a smidgen of corruption.
And that ever-favorite Lois Lerner is herself.
Thank you. I'm not good at math.
For another week of As the IRS Turns. I'm Gaga for the saga.
I forgot about that part of the,
it's gonna take, we're going to just
intro.
Our goal is to have just clips. Just lined up.
This is a good one, Jim, because we're going to try it today. We have a line of clips. Absolutely. Actually,
I don't know what that reaction was.
There was a very good clip of Jim Jordan, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Going after Loretta Lynch.
I could have done the whole... No, it wasn't Loretta Lynch.
And also...
I could have done this whole
Talking
segment.
about Pablo Picasso.
Yeah.
Actually, it was...
We're going through the alphabet. Like
actually, it was almost...
Arnie Anderson.
Actually, it was almost 5 minutes, so I wouldn't have time. The clip that I really want. I was just going to let it play and let Jim Jordan take over the show. But Jim Jordan, remembered who Jim Jordan is. He's a representative from Ohio, and he's one of our favorites here, one of my favorites, I should say. And they had another hearing for the IRS. This was the 23rd hearing for the IRS, and the
that's Michael Jordan's number.
Very good. And the ranking member, Representative Cummings, Elijah Cummings, was very angry about having another,
because he's got a name of Elijah. No, I wouldn't be very happy.
He's been angry since birth. That's true. But he was angry about this about another hearing. The two Democrats on the panel accused the GOP colleagues of repeatedly holding hearings on the IRS for political purposes.
Let's hear what Jim Jordan has to say.
Because they will never have it on political purpose. Well, I want to paint the story a little bit more better. Because,
how much more can we paint?
I want to tell you what this is. Jim Jordan goes through the timing, and he tells us about because they say, "Oh, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing 23 hearings." And Jim Jordan says, "Oh, wait a minute. We have to have these hearings, and this is why." And so he begins with the history of what's going on. So let's start with the first clip that I have.
We're not trying to get the IRS. The IRS was trying to get conservative Americans who were exercising their First Amendment free speech rights. 23 hearings is a pretty small price to pay when you're trying to protect fundamental liberties in the Constitution.
I have to agree with them. And right. I forgot to tell you that they said, how did he start that? That they were trying to,
we're not going after the IRS.
They say they're going after the IRS. And how dare they go after the IRS when the IRS is supposed to go after you?
It was just like when I went after Megyn Kelly last week.
Megyn Kelly? Don't you ever do that. She's not ready for the clip.
That's okay.
Okay.
What's it?
Okay. So, so what happened is, then Jim Jordan went through the history of what was going on in the saga. And so I want to play the second clip.
Several years back, Brian Downing orders destruction of documents that TIGTA needs in their audit. The person who was ordered to destroy the documents comes forward. Again, the IRS gets caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Lois Lerner, now famous speech, May 10th, 2013, where she goes to a bar association, lies to the American people. Says it wasn't us. It was just those folks in Cincinnati. Complete lie. It was folks in Washington orchestrating this targeting against conservative groups. Later in 2013, Mr. Koskinen is brought in to clean up the mess.
So he's brought in by the president to clean up the mess.
Who took the cookies from the cookie jar?
The IRS.
Don't
attack Megyn Kelly. I love her.
That's right. I'll stay away from... She took the cookies, though.
No, she didn't. She wouldn't do that. She's very trim. Okay. Okay. But listen, this is what's going on, right? That Jim Jordan is following the saga here. And then they bring in Koskinen, and he's supposed to clean up everything, and there's not supposed to be any more saga. It's supposed to be ended. But it continues.
Mr. Koskinen learns that Lois Lerner's hard drive has had problems. He waits 2 months before he tells Congress and the American people, and more importantly, 422 backup tapes are destroyed after there are 3 preservation orders, one from the IRS themselves, one from TIGTA, one from the Justice Department doing a criminal investigation, and 2 subpoenas from this committee.
So all of that stuff going on, they're telling them, don't destroy anything. The IRS themselves are saying, we're not going to destroy anything. And they go out and they destroy stuff. And this is just coming out this last couple of weeks. If you're following the saga, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that there's a new scandal that they came out and they destroyed more hard drives about this. And now they're promising. Now they're swearing they're never going to do that again. The IRS is never going to go after conservatives again unless you happen to be a conservative, and then they're coming after you. And when they're coming after you, you're not going to get help. You got to get it from people like Opem Tax Resolutions. They help people solve their IRS problems. Call them 312-664-6649.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't be like Loretta Lynch with your hand in the cookie jar. Stay tuned, because after this break, we're going to come
Loretta
back with
Lynch.
A little couple of questionnaires. So stay tuned here on AM 560.
The Answer.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host. I am attorney Stephen Leahy. And this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Did I say it right?
Did we?
Yeah. Okay.
And now, here's that man with a head just crammed full of knowledge, Mr. Know-It-All.
That's right, Mr. Know-It-All. I forgot all about that.
We've never done this before.
You know, I often talk about 6 things. Oh, I'm sorry, that's another segment. Because you write the whole segment out.
I don't write it. I just take notes. It's an outline.
Okay. I do have a question.
That's why I run the show, Jim.
From a man named Frank Futon out in Warrenville.
Like that's his real name.
It's what it says right here.
Okay. I didn't write that down. It's
written right here.
I didn't write that down.
Okay.
Okay, what's the question?
Aren't all tax preparation companies the same?
What a great question, Frank.
Mr. Futon.
Mr. Futon. What a great question. And I wanted to tell you, the answer is no. They're not all the same. It is true that if you have a easy return, that almost anybody can do it. You can do it yourself. And there's lots of free software nowadays online to do the tax return yourself. If you make less than $60,000 and you don't want any deductions, you can do it yourself online. Ooh. And there's lots of commercials say, hey, we'll do it free. But then they'll charge you for your state return, like $10 or something. So you wind up paying $10 to get your tax returns done, which is a good deal. If I'm not going to deduct anything, and I don't have no deductions, and all I'm doing is trying to get, I have one job, I have a W-2, and I'm not making a lot of money, don't have any deductions, go to these free sites. That's what you should do. But there's lots, and I have this a lot, when people come to see me and say, I had a friend of mine at work, and they had this great tax preparer, and they doubled his refund every year. And I thought, this is great. I want to go to that guy. So there's a lot of bad tax preparers out there. Oh, I think we have a clip from one of their offices.
After all, making out the income tax is nothing.
What do you mean, nothing?
When I get through, the income tax collector will get nothing.
Hey, you know what's funny? How people love to jip on their income tax.
That's because it's such a cinch. They never can catch smart guys like us.
No! We'll hornswoggle.
All right. It ain't that funny, you laughing hyenas.
The Three Stooges always make me laugh.
Isn't that illegal? Aren't you doing what Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger did?
Kissinger.
And listening in?
We were listening in, and there
I'm
are
calling the ethics committee right now.
And there are outfits that think just that way. We can bamboozle them. We can cheat the IRS. We'll just inflate all of your deductions and pretend you have a business when you don't, and give you lots of business expenses and deduct it from your income, and you'll have a huge return. And you'll say, wow, they're really good because they got me a huge return. Well, here's my advice to you. Don't go to them. Okay, the Three Stooges or anybody like that, because if they're telling you that they're going to get a huge refund for you, they're doing it by cheating. And what happens is people don't read their tax return. You're counting on your tax preparer. They hand it over to you. They say, "Here, sign here," and you sign. And when you sign, you're signing under penalty of perjury. So you can't go back and say, "Oh, my tax preparer, they're the ones that are at fault here, not me. All I did was hire them." Well, guess what? You're at fault. The IRS is coming after you. They're going to go after them too. They're going to put them out of business, and they're going to audit every one of the returns that they've done. Lien and levies. That's correct. You have learned something here, Jim.
I pay attention.
I see. I understand. So, but what's going to happen is the IRS is going to get wind of this, and they're going to audit every return they've ever done. So you're going to be caught up in this dragnet, and the IRS is going to look
to you. Didn't they make a show?
They did. That was a great show. And we used to use the music, but you didn't like it, remember? Okay.
Dragnet? No, I'm sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was something called... another show, Perry Mason. Oh, not Dragnet. Yeah, I'm right. Sorry, sir.
You're right. It was Perry Mason.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry.
Same era.
I'm sorry.
That's when Bernie Sanders was retiring. Yeah. He was retiring in the 50s and becoming a congressman and then a senator. Okay, so again, if someone's promising you a large refund, it's probably fraudulent, and you're going to get caught in the problem, because what happens is you're going to get a big refund. The IRS is going to find out, and they're going to say, "You know that refund we gave you? You have to give it back to us." And you're going to say, "I spent it. I don't have it to give you." And they're going to say, then we're going to start garnishing your wages, and we're going to take things from your bank account, and we're going to come after you, and we're going to hit you hard, and you're going to pay us back. And so if this happens to you, even after the fact, come and see me. That's what we do. We help people who have tax problems. So, and again, I don't want to say it's no fault of your own, but people get sucked into these things because they think they're legitimate, and they're not legitimate. They are cheating, and they're using you. And here's another thing: if anybody's offering to get you a refund and then taking a percentage of the money that you're going to get back. Red, bing, 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 bing. Red lights, red lights.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Do not go
danger.
there. Do not go there. It's false. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All. And ladies and gentlemen, if you need help, this man can help you. And
our Opem Tax Resolutions. We help people prepare tax returns. So if you need your tax return prepared, call us. 312-664-6649.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because the show is about to wrap up, and it is going to be a great wrap up here on AM 560.
The answer. It says wrap up right there.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated. Learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for staying tuned after that commercial break. This is the IRS Radio Hour here on AM 560, The Answer. And I am not Stephen Leahy, but I am Jim Leahy, the co-host, the very good friend, and the nephew.
Very good. I like that.
See, we're trying to start something a little new here.
A little different. We're kooky.
A little kooky crazy.
It's a legal show, but it's a kooky legal show.
It's a kooky crazy legal lawyer show.
I do really want to bring more lawyers on the show. Why? Because I think they have a lot of good information that you may be interested in as a listener.
I want to do live locations.
So, for instance, I have a guy who does personal injuries. And he could tell you, if I'm in a car accident, what should I do? I want to bring a DUI attorney that I know in. If I get pulled over and I've only had one drink, what should I do? These are important questions.
I want to bring this real pretty lady on.
I know what I should. No, I shouldn't do that. I'm married. Ew! Talk about that.
Wait.
I'm thinking of Valentine's Day.
That's why I did it.
And I almost, there it is.
Valentine's Day.
Teresa, I want you to know, it's Happy Valentine's Day. I didn't get you a card, but I got you this.
He got you a spot on the radio.
And there you go. Who else do you know that got a spot on the radio?
That's true love.
That's true love. Exactly correct. Because I do love her. And I got to say, we just celebrated because Jessica just celebrated her 21st birthday, and I met my wife. I met my wife one day before Jessica was born, and that was 21 years ago. So, happy anniversary, darling!
Wow, that's sad.
Okay. Now, if I could just get her to listen to the show. Actually, she does listen to the show. And but what
I could see her
now,
something
there really important I wanted to talk about, even not quite as important as my wife as Valentine's Day. Pitchers and catchers are going to report on February 19th for the Chicago Cubs.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. Let's go.
What do you think of that, Jim?
I love it.
Did you see the article with Lackey?
Yes, I did. And did you see what he said?
Yes.
I'm focused. I am ready. And we're ready to go.
I didn't see it. What did he say?
What he said was
all right,
he came to the Cubs because he wants to win. And he took less money than he could have gotten somewhere else.
He's going to win no matter what.
And he's friends.
Did you see that? No. Okay.
Who's our pitcher that he's friends with?
John Lester.
Kerry
Wood.
He's not our pitcher anymore. And Lester said, this guy is the real deal.
Sade.
He's going to. Did I say Sade?
Yeah.
He's going to lead us to a World Series because he has two and he knows how to get them, and that's why he's coming to the Cubs. I was really happy to hear that.
I'm really happy too about that, but I was also really happy to see the Panthers get smoked on the Super Bowl. Cam Newton, is that how you act? Is that an MVP status?
I have to say,
come on, man.
In a game like that, I never know exactly who I'm going to root for until I start watching the game. And sometimes in the middle of the game, I can switch. But I started with the
Panthers.
I started with Denver because I like Peyton Manning, and I got to say, he did not have a great game, but his experience is what won the game because he didn't try to put the team on his back and carry him. He couldn't. Cam Newton did. He tried to put the team on his back, and that's what killed him. It's a team game, Cam. It's not about you.
Who throws fits like that?
I do.
And if you're throwing a fit when the IRS is coming after you,
good.
There is one man and one company to call.
What is it, Jim?
Opem Tax Resolution will solve it all.
That's very good, Jim.
We can call them at 312-664-6649 or go on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. We want to thank everybody for staying tuned here on this radio station. We want to thank you for staying tuned. So stay tuned. There's other great programming coming up after this amazing program.
Wow.
So stay tuned on AM 560, The Answer.
But what I'm going to see, join us next week. Same bad time, same bad station.
I love the switch around. Ladies and gentlemen, we love you. See you next week.